Really hoping that nobody ends up in a life-threatening accident anytime soon. Because under Trump's new budget plan, hospitals might have a lot fewer resources and reasons to save your life. Yes! I love America! Hi everyone, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. Here's what the fuck is happening. The Trump administration wants to cut over $8 trillion from Medicaid. You know, that program that helps low-income families, children, disabled individuals, and senior citizens afford medical care. Well, they want to scale back on Medicare, which actually pays hospitals to keep the fucking lights on. And I'm sure you're thinking, wait, but hospitals can't legally turn you away. Yeah. That's because of a law called EMT-ALA, which forces hospitals that take what? Medicare funding to treat you in an emergency no matter what. So if you can't pay, they still have to help you, but they'll bill you later. But here's the fun little loophole. If you start gutting Medicare and Medicaid, you're starving the very system that makes that protection possible. Hospitals lose funding, staff gets cut, ERs close, and suddenly that guarantee of care is just words on paper. Now, Trump's excuse for all of this? He's saying that there are ineligible people receiving this life-saving care, mainly undocumented immigrants. He says this bill will protect taxpayers by removing at least 1.4 million illegal immigrants from the program. But here's what he isn't telling you. Undocumented immigrants are already banned from full Medicaid coverage except for true emergencies. That's been the law for decades. So that 1.4 million people the White House is referring to, that's actually state-funded programs, not people getting federal Medicaid illegally. So when Trump says he's cutting all of this to stop illegal immigrants from getting health care, he's lying. Because the only people who are receiving this care are the ones who are legally eligible. Like these people have gone through a screening process. What this administration is actually doing? Using the fear of immigrants to justify gutting life-saving programs for everyone. So yeah, Trump isn't trying to save money. He's just laying the groundwork for a country where getting shot, getting hit by a car, or having a heart attack could literally leave you bankrupt. Or get you turned away because the hospital no longer exists. Why? To line the pockets of billionaires. We've had more shootings in the United States than we've had days in the calendar year. Let me say that again. We've had more shootings in the United States than days of the fucking year. That's not a metaphor. That is a statistic. This weekend alone, 2 students were killed at Brown University. Ella Cook and Muhammad Aziz Amirzakov. Ella was a sophomore. Muhammad was a freshman who wanted to become a neurosurgeon. 9 more people were injured. And final exams were canceled because students were running for their lives. And this wasn't just the only event that transpired. In Brooklyn, 6 teenagers ages 15 to 17 were shot outside of a birthday party. Fortunately, though they're in the hospital, they all survived. But we've now had hundreds of mass shootings this year alone. And one of the victims at Brown University also survived the Parkland shooting. Imagine surviving one massacre just to relive that same exact nightmare again. And every single time the response is the same. Thoughts and prayers. This isn't a gun problem, it's a mental health problem. Except here's the part that they don't say out loud. The same administration using mental health as a scapegoat for gun violence cut funding for mental health programs. They stripped grants meant for counselors in schools. The exact places they need help. You don't get to mourn with one hand and then defund prevention in another. Other countries have passed gun laws, and shocking to none, gun violence went down. So clearly, passing stricter gun laws isn't complicated, it's just a political inconvenience. And while we're watching this carnage unfold, Jewish families in Australia are grieving because of an anti-Semitic attack on people celebrating Hanukkah. 16 people were killed, families destroyed, children are traumatized, and instead of showing solidarity, Netanyahu used it as a political weapon, blaming Australia's prime minister for recognizing Palestine, as if recognizing Palestinian humanity somehow causes anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is real. It is violent. It should be condemned without hesitation. But exploiting Jewish grief to justify more violence anywhere? That's not justice, it's propaganda. What connects all of this is leaders refusing to take accountability, who trade human lives for power and tell us to pray instead of protecting us. We aren't unlucky, we are being failed deliberately. And I'm exhausted having our government watch us scream into a void full of bullet holes. To anybody in Australia who lost loved ones, I am so sorry for your loss. To the families of Ella and Muhammad, I am so sorry for your loss. To the children who were shot in Brooklyn, I'm hoping you have a quick and safe recovery. But we shouldn't just be sending thoughts and prayers. There needs to be a change. I just love that healthcare in this country is now optional. Trump just signed a bill that rips healthcare away from 12 million people. And that is somehow being sold as a big, beautiful win. Right. Right. I mean, to be fair, it's a win if you're a billionaire, but, everybody else? Congrats!
You're fucked.
This bill doesn't just slash Medicaid, it targets Planned Parenthood, which is a bit odd to me, considering Medicaid already can't cover abortions. The Hyde Amendment has been blocking that for decades. But this new law says if you're on Medicaid, you can't even go to a Planned Parenthood for anything. Not a pap smear, not birth control, not a cancer screening, not STI testing. Literally nothing. Nada. There are so many services at Planned Parenthood, and now they're all at risk. And because of that, nearly 200 Planned Parenthoods could close their doors. And that would leave over 1 million patients without basic care. That means longer waits, longer drives, people getting sick, and more lives lost. Medicaid covers 40% of births in the US. So guess who's impacted by all of this the most? Pregnant individuals. Especially Black pregnant individuals who already face the highest maternal mortality rates. Hospitals in rural states like Texas, Arizona, Georgia, they're already preparing to shut down OBGYN services. And that's because our government thinks tax cuts for billionaires matters more than the lives of pregnant people and babies. And let's get something clear. The same billionaires who are benefiting from this and call themselves pro-life are literally killing people. People are suffering. Patients are being turned away right now. Families are losing care right now. This isn't some far-off political debate. This is people's actual lives on the line. Imagine having to choose between feeding your child or driving 3 hours just to get a breast exam, because that is the reality we are living in. That is the reality this law is creating. So what can we do? We raise fucking hell. That's what we do. You refuse to stay quiet while healthcare is gutted for billionaire tax breaks. Call your reps, blow up their inboxes, tell them you stand with Planned Parenthood. Tell them you stand with Medicaid. And tell them you stand with every single person whose care is currently being ripped away. Because healthcare isn't optional, it's a human right. Quick question. When did we decide that the solution to climate change was more oil rigs in the ocean or on public land? Did I miss something? Because the Trump administration just announced a plan to open up 90% of US coastal water across the Atlantic, Pacific, and the Arctic to new offshore oil drilling. Yes, our oceans. The ones that are already struggling, the ones where coral reefs might go extinct. Yeah, those ones. This plan hands over huge sections of our public waters to the oil and gas industry. Areas that have been protected for decades, like California, which hasn't seen a new oil rig since 1984. And this now massively increases the risk of catastrophic oil spills. You know, the things that wipe out wildlife, destroy fisheries, ruin coastal towns for decades. Exactly like the 1969 oil spill in Santa Barbara that inspired the first National Earth Day in the US. Sea turtles, whales, dolphins, seabirds, entire ecosystems put at risk. Not because communities asked for this, but because oil companies want it. And that's the wild part. Millions of people who live on these coasts don't want oil drilling anywhere near them. Florida, California, Alaska. But this plan just completely ignored them. Also, let's be so serious for a second here. Climate scientists have been screaming at us that we need to transition away from fossil fuels, not lock ourselves into decades more extraction. The good news though, this isn't a done deal. Earth Justice, who's been fighting for clean water, public lands, and communities for over 50 years, they're already preparing legal challenges to stop this. They're suing to block Arctic drilling, they're challenging illegal oil leases, and working alongside tribal nations, scientists, and coastal communities. And right now, the Department of Interior is taking public comments, which means our voices actually matter. Public pressure has stopped reckless drilling before, and it can again. So here's what I need you all to do. Take action today by telling the Department of Interior no new offshore drilling, stand with Earth Justice, and defend our coasts, our communities, and the ocean that keeps us alive. The deadline is January 23rd. Making a public comment only takes a few seconds and it makes a real difference. We don't need oil rigs where whales live. Otherwise, we put an oil rig right next to Trump's desk in the Oval Office. What we really need are leaders who live in reality and who understand that this kind of damage can lead to irreversible consequences. Consequences that will impact all of us for years to come. I posted a video breaking down how Trump has fundamentally shifted US policy towards Europe, and shocker, TikTok took that video down. So, let's try this shit again, shall we? If you're new, welcome. If you're not, you know what fucking time it is, bitch. It's time for the Daily Scream. What's happening right now between the United States and Europe is not a disagreement. It's a structural shift in how America defines allies. And that matter. This isn't speculation. It's written in the United States National Security Strategy. So let me break this down. For the first time in decades, official U.S.